Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I know everyone is just signing on, so we're going to give you all another minute or so to come on in and join us. But good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. I am Samantha Russell. I am in State College, Pennsylvania, where Happy Valley is, where Penn State University is, if we have any Nittany Lion fans. And joining me today is Ruben Miller. And Ruben, where are you?
I am in Whitefish, Montana today. I work up here a part of the year.
It just sounds beautiful. Is it beautiful?
It is. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that?
Oh my gosh, now we can. Oh, you're right on
the water. Yeah.
What's that lake called?
That's Whitefish Lake.
Oh, Whitefish Lake. Okay. Are you a big fisherman at all?
I am not.
Okay.
Yeah, you can leave it there. I'm not, but I enjoy it. I'm just not any good.
Well, hey, enjoying it is worth something as well. So for everyone just joining us today, again, we're just chit-chatting while we wait for you all to join. Please let us know in the chat, where are you today? Ruben is out in Montana. I am in State College, PA, which everybody gets it confused with College Station, or in Texas, it's Pennsylvania. We are in Pennsylvania. So let us know where you're joining us from. And hopefully you have some good views like Ruben does. Oh, we got Bend, Oregon, Boca Raton, Chautauqua. I'm going to Lake Chautauqua with my whole family at Labor Day weekend. Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up there. Where'd you grow up, Ruben?
We both grew up in Ohio. I'm from Dayton.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about this one before. Dayton and Cleveland. Represent the best sports fans, I think, in Ohio. Okay, some people might disagree. So we've got lots of people from all over joining us. I was looking to see if we had anybody outside of the United States. Sometimes we'll have some folks joining us from across the pond. So if we have anybody, speak up. We'd love to know. That's always fun. But today we are going to be talking about what makes an advisor website really work, what makes it stand out. And it's way more fun for you to all hear it from somebody who is the actual advisor themselves and not just from me, not just take it from me. So I was so excited when Ruben agreed to do this with me. I've known Ruben for years, back when he was working for Dimensional Funds. And I've always enjoyed working with you, Ruben. So thank you again for agreeing to do this today. Just so you all know, we're going to do a little bit something different. We do have some slides, and you'll get those slides after. And additionally, we also have put together this amazing website best practices checklist that everyone who registered will get. So that will be sent to you shortly. But really what we're going to do is actually pull Ruben's website up and talk through what makes it great, the things that are working well, hear more about his story and the process of getting it put together, and hopefully give you some good takeaways that you can utilize on your own site as well. But Ruben came prepared to answer your questions. So if you have questions for him, you can put them in the chat and we can both see all of those. If it's something you're willing for everyone to see. If you want only Ruben and I to see it and not everybody else on the call, then you should use the Q&A box. That's what that is for. So again, that's what the plan is for today. If any of you right now are thinking, I would really love to know X, like what should my strong call to action be on my website? Or where's, the best place to put my fees page? Or, what's a good number of website visitors? Whatever your questions are, put them in the chat and we'll make sure to address them. You don't have to save them for the end. So if there's something you really want to know about your own website today, feel free to drop that in now so we can make sure we get to it. All right, but I thought the best way to start would be for some quick introductions. I'm not going to talk about myself too much because so many of you have done these webinars and attended ones that I've hosted before, but I am the chief evangelist at FMG. And I did just want to point out, if we're not connected on LinkedIn already, please, let's connect there. You'll notice that a lot of the types of tips we're going to talk about today, I will share in really easy, digestible chunks on LinkedIn. So if you like what you're hearing today, you'll get a lot more of that if we connect there. So Ruben, that was a lot of info for me, and we all want to hear from you. So can you just sort of quickly give us a little bit of background about your career in finance and who you are?
Sure. I guess the brief version is I spent my 20s at the Chicago Board of Trade. So I was kind of on the other side of the industry from independent fiduciary advisor world. I was slinging bonds. And I did that for 7 years, which is probably a longer tenure than most people last as a trader in this kind of fast-paced world like that. I didn't have like a remarkably successful career as a trader. In my late 20s, I decided to go back to business school. So I went to California for my MBA. And when I was in business school, I started thinking about markets a little differently and got really interested and gravitated toward more evidence-based investing. And I had a professor who said, you should go look at dimensional fund advisors, which, as most people on the call, I imagine, know as advisors, is sort of a pioneer in systematic evidence-based thinking. I luckily landed a job at Dimensional. I was a regional director there, and I covered financial advisors as my job. And I did that for about 7 years at Dimensional. 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, I left Dimensional and joined an RIA as chief investment officer. And then just earlier this year, I actually left there and launched my own firm, Peltoma. And so now, as I'm sure many people on the call are in the same shoes, I wear a lot of hats. I'm juggling a lot of things, trying to figure out my own long-term strategy and build out my own team and all that. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay, that's a really great overview. I have more questions for you, but for everyone listening in, please let us know. This would be really helpful for Ruben and I. Are you currently with a larger broker dealer? Are you independent, running your own business? And do you have any staff? Are you not an advisor and, affiliated in the industry in some other way? Let us know kind of your background. That would be helpful for us to know who we're talking to, since we can't talk to you in person. And I already see some good questions coming in for us about the best way to use your website to drive leads and convert to clients. And we are definitely going to get to that. So stay tuned. Ruben and I had a prep call, and he gave me so many good nuggets of things that are working for him too. So let's see, we have, some people who are in the same position as you, marketing directors, lots of people who are independent or affiliated with larger RIAs. So it seems like we've got a lot of RIA side. We at FMG, just so everybody's here, if you are interested in working with FMG, because you'll see today, that is what Ruben ended up doing to build his website. We serve both independent RIAs and advisors affiliated with broker dealers. We have large enterprise clients and small, solopreneurs. So we run the gamut. And this is really helpful to see anything. I don't know if there's any trends sticking out to you, Ruben. It looks like we got a little bit of everything.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess one thing I wanted to tie to FMG about like my decision was that I come from this world at, passive investing, working at Dimensional. But if anyone who kind of gravitates towards that way of thinking, there's this whole idea that markets work pretty well. So that if there's a lot of people that have an opinion, it's getting expressed, say, in market prices. But if anyone reads my blog, you probably see that this is how I talk about this stuff all the time, about finding that sort of logic in other parts of your life. So when I was like, who's going to build my website, I wanted a group that had a lot of information about what works. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a boutique that doesn't specialize in our industry. But the way I think about things, I just immediately gravitate towards like, who knows the most about what works well? And it was a very quick conversation from us. I already knew you, obviously, but that is how I think about almost everything in my life, which is that there's probably someone better at me to do this. And I want to know who's got the right information to craft the right piece that you need.
Right. It's the same way you want people to come to you who could do some of this stuff themselves, but want to outsource it. It's really, really the same idea. So let's actually pull up your website. Can you see your website right now? I'm going to make sure everyone can see it.
I can.
Awesome. So this is peltomacapital.com. You can all go to it if you want and follow along. So you mentioned earlier this year, you went independent, and I believe it was April of this year that you launched this website. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So very, very recently. And one of the things that I just have to say is I think you might win the award for the fastest website set up in the history of the world, because what was it, 72 hours that you had this this baby up and running?
Yeah, I mean, that's not to credit to me, that's credit to you all, but yeah, that was I keep telling you, like, between the value proposition of getting a website set up here is remarkable. It was way quicker than I would have expected. It looks nicer than I would have expected. It was just fantastic. I haven't touched it since.
Okay. So the first thing everyone's going to know is, since you launched this website, have you had anybody actually come through the door and book a time on your calendar?
Yes, but
Okay.
not a tremendous amount.
Okay.
And I've probably had 6 prospect meetings from someone just randomly booking on my calendar. And I think 1 or 2 of those I actually knew before. They just decided to go through my website. Not that I wasn't like super friendly with them, so felt more natural them to go through the website probably.
Okay. But that's about three meetings. So I'm sorry, 2 meetings per month over 3 months. Yeah. So those are pretty, I mean, for those of you wondering kind of where you fall, and maybe you guys can let us know in the chat what your experience is, but I would say 1 to 2 new booked meetings per month is a great sweet spot to be in terms of if you're doing it in a way where you're not pounding the pavement, running a bunch of paid ads, you know, you don't have a YouTube channel and a podcast and all these different things, but you're doing things, you know, as you've and I've talked about, Ruben, you wear a lot of hats when you are running a business like this on your own. And so there's only so much bandwidth that you do have in the beginning. So I think that is a really tremendous number, especially for a newer website. One thing I do want to mention for anybody listening in, Ruben, correct me if I'm wrong, but peltomacapital.com, that was not a URL or a domain that you owned before or were utilizing, right? It's brand new.
Yeah, brand new.
Okay. So for all of you listening in, there is something called domain history that goes into search engine optimization. So if a domain is brand new, Google typically doesn't rank it that high in the beginning because it is brand new. So they don't, know if they can trust it. Is it a spammy website? So it takes some time. So that is actually one reason why Ruben also has this great blog separate from his website called Fortunes and Frictions that he's been doing for how long, Ruben?
About a year and a half.
And he's got a ton of great content on it. You'll see some really stuff that makes you laugh. I love it. I think you are an amazing writer, but we actually have his blog separate still than his website, because the blog is pulling in still, it's going to get higher SEO in the beginning. Now over time, you can create links, which we'll talk about, between your blog and your new website to help kind of tell Google these 2 sites are affiliated and boost the SEO. But having them separate is not a bad thing in this case, because we're going to just capitalize on some of the SEO from the blog. All right, so let's go back to setting up your website and some of the things that I wanted to point out to everybody that are really best practices. So the first one is, you'll notice that the website itself, there's not a ton of pages at the top. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Ruben, when you land on a website and literally there's like 11 main pages in the navigation. Best practice is actually only 5 to 7. So you've done a good job there. You don't have a ton. The other thing is, as you scroll through, everyone, you want the site to be easy to scan and easy to read, right? We do not read a website like a book. We don't start in the upper left-hand corner and read every single line. We scroll and we scan until we see something that, catches our eye and we want to learn more. So you can see he's got all of these little sections here, like what kinds of clients does he work with? And as you hover over, more information comes up. Lots of places where you're reminding people that they can schedule an appointment with you with your calendar scheduler. And then even these little icons. This is all best practices. We don't want really big paragraphs of text. So Ruben, can you talk a little bit about, in terms of writing the copy, because you did such a fantastic job writing it. What did that look like for you? Did you kind of know what the layout was going to be and then write the copy to fit? Or did you write the copy first and then hand it over to us?
We connected with your team and we walked through what the pages would be, sort of, and then I wrote the copy accordingly. And so I kind of had the layout of what it would look like. That was just based on what you all said was reasonable, and to the information you just gave, like how many pages to have to not make it overwhelming and whatnot.
Right, right. And so a lot of people say the trickiest part of a website for them is the copy. And I'm here to tell you that is, don't be worried if that's the case for you. That's really common. I don't know if you found that to be true, Ruben, because you write for a blog so often. I know that can be different, but was it something that took a long time for you to do?
I wouldn't say a long time. There's really not that much here. I also I was a wholesaler, so I said the same stuff out of my mouth to clients time after time for so many years that when it comes to talking about the investment stuff part or portfolio design or implementation, that stuff is very second nature to me, in the way that for someone who's a lifelong financial planner, talking about doing a backdoor Roth or a Roth conversion or some things like that, they're just second nature. They kind of just roll off the tongue. So for me, on the investment stuff that's in here, a little bit about how I think about asset allocation, that stuff's very quick. Something like this page we're looking at, which was the genesis of the name of the firm, it took a little longer, even though it's a lot less words. There took a lot of thought went into this page right here.
Yes. And I really wanted to highlight this because one of the biggest things that's missing from so many of the advisor sites that I look like is really some heart, right? A story. If you think about what drives human behavior, it is emotion and it is storytelling. And yet so many firms really are so buttoned up, so overly professional, that we miss that ability to make a connection with our words, right? So many of you will tell me, if I can get somebody to meet with me in person, I can get them to convert, no problem. But, I have so many people coming to my website, and a lot of them leave before I ever get the chance to know them, meet them, have them schedule that meeting. And typically when someone tells me that and I go look at their website, it's because they don't have enough of the why, of the meaning behind the firm. And so I absolutely love that you tell the story about why you named your firm, what you did. The story itself is just, so great. I started reading it and was hooked right away and wanted to read the rest of it. Have you had anybody comment on this page to you yet? I know it's still a newer website, but I'm just curious.
Mostly just marketers in the industry. There's a friend of ours, Emily Binder, who kind of shared this website at a conference recently. I mean, I don't know, I'm flattered that it resonates with people. I haven't heard it from like a prospect that says, oh, I love the name Peltoma and where you got it. What I do hear is when I'm on my A game, sorry, let me take a step back. My problem has been the firm name, and people that are watching this are probably trying to read this really quickly, but it's basically, Peltoma is the name of a lake in a region where this Indian tribe lived 400 plus years ago. And this tribe called the Mi'kmaq didn't really understand wealth in the way that Europeans did. And so these French came over to invade and proselytize this tribe, and the Mi'kmaq were just dumbfounded that, like, why do you care about these jewels and this wealth and these treasures and keep talking to us about it? We just want to be with our family and spend our time the way we want to spend it. And that's what this page here basically says. And the Mi'kmaq, there's this great story of them telling this this one gentleman from the French side. They basically said, you keep thinking you're rich, but you're not rich. That's not what being rich is. What being rich is, or what wealth is defined as in their language, was having ease, comfort, and time. And so that's kind of a tagline for my firm that I use a lot. And so that's the story. When I can tell that story articulately to someone, like I was playing tennis the other week with this guy, and he asked me what the name meant, and I said it kind of quickly and it worked. He was like, wow, that's really cool. But sometimes I catch myself trying to just explain it, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm doing everything you're not supposed to do. Here this person is asking about my business, maybe they're a potential client, but I spent 2 minutes explaining what the word Peltoma means. So for me, it's been the art of making sure that I'm articulate but brief, and then I move on and I answer any questions they might have about my business, because maybe there's an opportunity there.
Yes. So it's funny you say that. When I was looking at your website, and Ruben gave me his approval, everyone, to do this, I told him I'd give him some feedback live on things I would change copy-wise. One of the things that I have found is that, I say this tagline all the time: nobody cares what you can do. They care what you can do for them, right? And so having a lot of years of expertise or having a philosophy behind what you do and having that story, those are all really great. But then kind of bridging the gap of how does it benefit the other person on the other side of the screen reading it is the most important. And so one of the things that I love some of the language you have. We are not a grocery store. We don't have something for everyone. We only have one investment philosophy. You know, you kind of put your stake in the ground. But on your homepage, which is the 3 most read pages of any advisor's website, are the homepage, the about page, so you know, your bio or your story, and then the next page that people linger on the most is either like the contact us, schedule a meeting, something like that. The homepage is where you're by far going to get the most eyeballs. So what I would do is change a little bit of the language to be more focused on you, like you focused on what's in it for me as the potential consumer of this service, right? And so you kind of have that what you deserve page. You might change the wording here to say something about, and I'm just shooting from the hip, but you deserve an evidence-based investing strategy with this. So it's more focused on what the outcome will be to the end user. And you know, I think that is probably one of the hardest things to get right for so many people. And you have to play around with it kind of to see. I wanted to just pull up one website that does it a little differently, but they're finding that it's really working for them because they are so niche specific. We're going to talk about niche here next. This is Cordant Wealth Partners, but you can see here, financial advice for tech employees. So it's really easy for them because they only serve tech employees. But then kind of the 3 takeaways that the people they work with are really hoping for are optimize equity compensation, lower taxes, make work optional. So you'll notice they don't have them in a sentence, right? They just have like 3 bullet points. That's a really great way if you have if you have kind of like 3 main things that you feel like the value you do for a client, putting them like that can be a really great way to write the copy on your homepage. And you kind of do that. I mean, you have evidence-based investing, tax. I know that the compliance makes it tricky. You don't want to say tax efficient or tax optimized always, but maybe you could say something like that. Taking, you know, a tax optimized financial plan, something like that. Every compliance is different, so make sure you run everything on compliance before you change your wording. But let's talk a little bit about your niche, because you and I did talk about this. You know, you have these kind of sections of clients that you serve, which I do love. So tell us a little bit about what your book looks like right now and who you are targeting.
Sure. So, I mean, I didn't become a financial planner until I was 37, and I'm 39 now. But I was in investments my whole career. Like I said, I was at the Board of Trade for 7 years, business school, and then at Dimensional. And so all my friends and my community all know, like, I'm in investments, but I've never been able to manage their money and make that a career. But I spent my whole career with my friends saying, what should I do with my 401k, or what would you do here? And giving, you know, casual perspectives on how I think about the investment landscape. So when I opened my doors at 37, kind of a hodgepodge of people from my life became clients. At this point, I work for about 25 families, and there's really no thread amongst them as far as ages or careers. Most of them, I'd say, so that's probably wrong. I'd say half of them knew me before, and there was some trust relationship there. And then some people have met me since, some people through the website, through a blog post, or through a podcast I was on, things like that. But it's been a hodgepodge, and I haven't been intentional about marketing towards any specific subset of people. That said, like, I wear my heart on my sleeve about stuff I care about. If people read my blog, they probably know that. My clients tend to like skew a little bit liberal. They tend to be professionals. Like, that's like a commonality, but it's not true throughout, and I'm not targeting it or anything like that.
Sure.
Here, what you're looking at, this is like a great case study, because this isn't really what I'm focused on. My book looks a little bit different than what I'm trying to do at this point, because I only opened my doors 2 years ago. And as everybody knows, when you start off, you know, you want to help people. Somebody comes in that would be a good client for the firm. You think you can do a good job for them. Even if they don't fit your ideal profile, you want to take them on. it helps both parties, even if it might not be the best decision in the very long term for your firm to deviate too far away from your ideal client avatar or whatever. But what you're looking at here, entrepreneurs and executives, wealth creators, career professionals, pre-retirees, retirees, complex wealth, it's basically freaking everyone. And that's what my website is saying, right? I hope somebody comes to this and says, oh, that's me. I got to work with Ruben. But in reality, most people fit into one of these that's shopping around for an advisor. That's because in the beginning, that's sort of what I was doing. And I was trying not to turn off anybody that would come to my website. I have an advisory board. So I have, it's another page on here we go to at some point, but I have 8 people that help guide big decisions I have to make at the firm. And I'm sure that we can, it's actually under About Us, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. And sorry, it's who we are. So I'm a one-person firm, but I have this advisory board. And these are all people that we meet quarterly. I bring big decisions to them and they help me think through it. And one of the first meetings we had, I said, look, in my industry, everybody says to niche down. You talk to any smart strategist, they'll tell you to niche down. I have this hodgepodge of clients. I do good work for all of them. I don't feel that stressed to like narrow my focus too much. Like business is good. And all of them were like, well, we don't necessarily work in your industry, but that sounds crazy. If you have the ability to really help a specific amount of people and create content around that and do all that, you should probably do that. And to hear it from, you know, the professionals like you, Samantha, who know this stuff, and then outside people who I really trust, once they see the story I'm telling, and then I say, well, what would you do? And everyone basically said, you should start focusing more. So I've made that decision since I launched the firm, since I already had the website. I need to update the website because I'm not really trying to attract everybody anymore. And what I find that I do my best work for are people that are still working. So that have some, hopefully some complex employment benefits. I find that I can add a lot of value there. So now I'm sort of narrowing it down to like, you know, I work with people maybe 30 to 55 that are working families. And the other thing that I find people kind of like is like, I'm a pretty casual, approachable, hopefully unintimidating person. And if somebody wants kind of Wall Street, I'm not it, but I'll go up against anyone as far as like, or I try to against, you know, if they want to talk investments, let's talk investments. I just don't need to wear a suit and tie to do it. And so that sort of general feel and starting to narrow my client profile, I am finding that referral wheel is starting to come because I keep reminding my clients and prospects and network that look like that's a decision I've made to start focusing there.
So you said a lot there that I 100% agree with. One thing I do want to say though, and for anyone listening, it is okay in the beginning, you know, so don't let perfect be the enemy of good and done, right? Like when you launch a business and you're worried about cash flow and things, of course you're going to work with a wider net of individuals and, you know, you're not going to have such a specific niche often. And that's okay. And then as time goes on and you realize who you really enjoy working with, who's a good fit, you can be more specific and you can be more specific in your marketing. And a website is a living, breathing thing, everyone. It's not like you put it up here and you can't update the copy or the language or, you know, hone in on something. It's very easy to come in and we work with people in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s who are still working and have a lot of career left and have questions about their employee benefit. You know, you can list all that out. And that's a very easy kind of update to make. I do absolutely love, and I wanted to point out that, you know, you really are showcasing in a way what kind of person is going to be a good fit, even just through some of the imagery. I mean, you're not showing a glass walled office and people in three-piece suits. Here you're showing yourself at home, your sweet little baby right there on the ground working next to you. And so just the images can go such a long way in resonating with the right people. But I love too the advisory board. And I just wanted to say to people, I get questions pretty often from people who will say, you know, we are a smaller shop. we want to maybe appear to be larger. It can be stressful for someone to think about, oh, if I'm only working with one person. And so an advisory board can be a fantastic way to showcase this, that you have a team of people behind you and helping you make these decisions in the thought process. So if anyone has questions about the advisory board, I'm sure Ruben would be happy to answer. You can feel free to drop those in as well. But I love that you actually featured them here. I think that's a really good strategy to, again, just, show a little bit more of the expertise behind. Someone is
it's not the easy. Well, I was just say it's not the easiest thing to be a solopreneur. I don't intend for this firm to only have one employee for very long, but an advisory board adds some gravitas. But what I really have done is like tapped into them. Like these were my friends and mentors and network people that I wanted to help me. And I asked them, I said, will you give me 1 year and do this? There's somebody just asked if there's a financial relationship. There's no financial relationship. I do have an offsite with them in November, and I will fly them to Austin and put them up. But no one gets paid a check or anything like that. I'll just cover the travel. It's been an incredible benefit for me, just connecting with them quarterly so far. And so while it does sort of make my team look like this sort of deep bench, these people aren't financial planners.
Yeah.
Somebody is hiring for their investment and planning outcomes. That's me. What this does is this is a new business. And I like clients to know that I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not someone who thinks I know everything. To have other business leaders and people I trust help guide key critical decisions to the business, it's incredible. You just got to find people that are willing to give you some time. And for perspective on trying to do this, if someone's at a firm that wants to, you want to make it a low lift. I'm not going to ask them for a ton of time each year. These are all very important people. They have big jobs. And I make it somewhat fun. They love meeting each other. We're going to have a good time when we meet in November in Austin. But I think it's a no-brainer if you can craft an independent advisory board like this. It's super helpful for strategy.
Oh, yes, 100%. Thank you for answering the question about the financial relationship. I think that is helpful for everybody who's listening to know. So, okay, so we talked about, the niche idea. We talked about the advisory board. We're going to get a couple more specific to the website questions, and then everybody stick around because we're going to talk a little bit about, Ruben mentioned, having people just coming to his website and booking a time on his calendar. We're going to talk about where those people came from because you've sort of identified that. And so I want you to share that with everyone. I did just want to mention in terms of the website itself, FMG has a setup, and Ruben, correct me if I'm wrong, it was $500 setup fee to get this website. Is that right?
I think I might even need a little bit less than that when I did it, but I can't recall right now. But yeah, I mean, it was de minimis for what I was trying to set up quickly.
And you choose a layout or a theme, as we call it. Or maybe we chose it for you. We just retooled our process. So did you choose the layout or did we choose it for you?
I think you chose it. I mean, to be honest with you, I came and saying, I need this done quickly. I had a friend do my logo and I came to that. That was all I had. And I had written some content so far. And I basically said, I trust you all. I need something quick. And it was incredible what turned out quickly.
I love that. So no, this is not a premium theme. We have these new essential layouts that are really great. You can tell they're super modern, super crisp. One of the things that's really important, I keep mentioning this, is the scroll and scan. Older websites, you'll see there's wasted space, like sidebars, tons of paragraphs. These websites are really meant to be interactive with these little pop-ups that come up. Just breaks for your eye, if you will. So this schedule a conversation is really easy to see here. As we mentioned before, icons that are, again, a little bit interactive. This is all both done through FMG, so designed by our team, as well as hosted by us. And then once you have your website live, you actually come in here, you log in, and then through FMG's dashboard, you have all your marketing tools, your website, all in one place. But talking a little bit about the actual website itself, one of the things that you added here, we have the ability to integrate with any website scheduler. So whether you use Schedule Once, Calendly, Acuity, you can have this little pop-up. Basically, you can have someone schedule a time. And so Ruben, you're using Calendly. Can you tell us a little bit about, for you, what this has done in terms of call to action?
So it's been more successful than I thought, even though maybe it's not a lot compared to what other people get. But these, 6 or so random, I wake up one morning and it says, a meeting's been put on your calendar by this person. And I don't know, like when you run a small business, like every client is so impactful to the business itself. And so like, that's a huge opportunity. And I was telling you on our prep call, like, I think about how many times I go to a website and I'm really interested in it, but then my baby cries and I have to go pick her up and I come back and I forget and I X out and I never go back. Whereas this, once they schedule them and I have their email forever, they go on my disk list, I can communicate with them. So it puts me sort of in control of driving where we might go. Mm-hmm. And I laugh about it. Like I have this good friend in the industry, Dave Welty, who owns this firm called Aviair out in Seattle. And he has this guy who works with him, Lars, who's also a good friend. And Lars has this YouTube channel and he has they count how many hours of views Lars gets every month and they call it virtual Lars. And so say Dave will joke with Nick, Lars worked 130 hours this month or whatever it is, but virtual Lars did 12,000 hours. And I've always thought about that. Oh my God, like the scale you get from this virtual part. And I felt that same little feeling of warmth that you get where you're like, gosh, what a beautiful business model I have. I woke up and because my technology is set up right, somebody wants to have a meeting with me. Maybe they'll become a client someday.
There's nothing better than going to bed and waking up to a new prospect.
New business. Yeah, totally. It's incredible. So I never had a job like this before. I always kind of worked corporate. And so these things are very meaningful to my business and making it frictionless to clients is super important. I don't have a benchmark, but for what I'm doing, it seems to have worked really, really well.
So let's talk a little bit about where those new booked meetings are coming from, because you've mentioned you've been able to sort of track out some of the business development activities you've done that are actually, leading people to find you. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I do have this blog that drives some traffic. I'm very intentional on the blog of letting people know, like, it's not there. I don't write about how to fund a 529 plan. Like you can see, I write about drinking cocktails on the beach and Jimmy Buffett. And I do get into investments. The idea is kind of pairing fun, playful stuff with more serious investment content. But it's never like, do you want to work with me? Email Ruben at Teltoma. Like, I don't do any of that. And in fact, when I announced my new firm, I basically told people this is the last time you're going to hear about my new firm because I don't talk about business development here. The hope is I'm approachable and unintimidating on my blog, not an expert in your family's 529 plan. You should hire me right now. So that's one place people coming from the blog.
I will say, if I were you, just from a marketer's perspective, I would put a call to action at the bottom of that says something like, want to know more about professional Ruben, head here, and put a link to your website, because then it's not, you're not selling anything, but if they're reading it and they're like, man, I would want to work with this guy, you're just making it really easy. Again, removing the friction.
I totally should do that. And at some point when I'm less busy and more comfortable with doing it, I'll do it.
Okay.
There's a little bit, there's a contact part. There's something about being able to explain it to people this way that also is a marketing benefit. Like, I'm not driving traffic here and people feel that. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I'm probably too far over the pendulum one way. I guest on podcasts sometimes. That's the biggest driver of inquiries on the website. So somebody will hear me as a guest on a podcast, and then this is how they'll email me. So that's the most inquiries for scheduling a meeting with me.
So I just really wanted to talk about that for a second, because for a lot of you listening, I get asked all the time, should I start a podcast? And then how do I get people to listen to my podcast? And what Ruben is telling you is that by being a guest on someone else's podcast, he tapped into their network, their listeners, the audience they've already created. And then from those appearances, he's able to then have people go to his website and book a meeting with him. I mean, that to me just speaks volumes. You don't always have to start by recreating the wheel, and you don't need to have a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Twitter, a LinkedIn, a now Threads, right? The new social media platform. We cannot possibly be all places, and we shouldn't. That's how messaging gets diluted. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to do any of those things, but you need to pick and choose which is best for your business. But you can still tap into the power of them by doing just that, right? Being a guest on some of these. And so I just think that that is such a good example of what can work well. The main thing is that when somebody's listening to this podcast, if they're listening to it and they're out for a run at 8 p.m., they don't have to come here and fill out a super long form to book a time with you. They can just come here and click that make an appointment button and get on your calendar. They don't have to explain what they want to talk about. They don't have to, give you all this information, which really, really makes it super, super easy. Okay. So in terms of, layouts, best practices, all of those things, we gave you a lot of tips. I'm just going to come back real quickly here into our slide deck. And if you're thinking about, okay, I'm not a good writer, I know the messaging is so important, what should the messaging look like? I thought this was just a good kind of fun one to think about. You're already getting messages from clients and prospects all the time that are written in their language that help you think about what they really need help with, right? So this is from an example from a plumber, right? Somebody sent him a messaging, I'm struggling installing the dishwasher. Anytime you can come over this week. I do it myself, but there's a chance I could flood the place. He took that and created that messaging on his homepage, right? It really is always going to resonate best if you take the words and language that the people you work with and use that to write your copy. So here's another example. These two gentlemen, Nick and Jeff, we design financial plans for busy executives and their families. And there's a picture of them, and they always do these drawings for their their clients. So they kind of included some of those drawings, right? Who you are, what you do, who you do it for is really the formula for great copy. And you don't really need to overcomplicate it. This more simple, the better. And actually, I love this chart. This comes from the Bank of New York, Pershing. They did a study on advisor value propositions a couple years ago. And they asked thousands of investors to rate on a scale whether they preferred certain words more or less, right? One of my favorite takeaways is look at the difference between comprehensive and holistic. Now, Ruben, I did see you using the word holistic a couple places. So I'm not saying you need to go back and change immediately, but I think it's because the word comprehensive, people just quickly get it faster, right? And so we're always about how can we make the language really easy to absorb if somebody's outside of our industry? Because we're all talking about this every day. But for the business owner down the street who is running a restaurant, he's not talking about holistic financial planning all day long. He's talking about profit margins and, how to retain the most produce and not have it go bad and things completely that we're not thinking about. So we want to speak in a way that's really, really easy to understand. Again, you guys are all going to get this because I know everyone's going to ask, can we have this chart? Yes, you're going to get these slides, but just be thinking about, if you look at the difference in the wording, making it as easy as possible for people to absorb your message. And then I just wanted to highlight this because you do have such a robust blog, Ruben. We did a study with wealthmanagement.com. We at FMG did last year. And we found that only 14% of the advisors we surveyed are actually doing blogging. And blogging is such a great way to do deep dives into the subject matter that you want to show that you are knowledgeable about. And so I'm just putting a little plug in there for blogging. A lot of you might say, I don't have time to be blogging, and this just isn't something I'm good at. If you subscribe to FMG's marketing suite of tools. So you can have just a website with us, you can have just our marketing tool set, or you can have both, right? You don't need to package them all up. So if you have a website somewhere else and you just wanted our marketing tools, you can. If you have just the marketing or just the website and you want to do your own marketing, you can. But let me go back here. In the content library here, you will see all different types of content. And for any of these, you can actually turn them into a blog post as well. So if you come in here and you look at any of the content and you're like, this would make for a great blog post, or I want to expand upon that, you absolutely could. So this is, for instance, is a social media post we created. talking about the rate hikes. And you could take this, copy it, put it into the blogging part of your website, and maybe you want to add a couple more sentences. Maybe you want to keep it short and sweet. You totally can do that. So there's so much really great content in here to make it easier for you. And we have listed out whether they're emails, social posts, blog posts, things like that. But again, totally up to you. If you want to take it even a step further, in FMG, we also have something called our Do It For Me marketing program. This is where every single month our team creates an editorial calendar on your behalf. And I can show you what that looks like real quick. And then I'm gonna.
There's some good questions in here too we can get to.
Yeah. So it would look like this. This is one from all the way back in October, but there's blogs, social media posts, and emails as well. So let's say, for instance, we hit the highest inflation's ever been, and it's all over CNBC, MSNBC. Our team would write an email on your behalf. That's a timely email that you can use and send out to everybody in your contact list within 24 hours, right? So we are just on the breaking news for you. But then we also in advance plan things out based upon, hey, it's back to school. Here's what you should know about FAFSA, or hey, here's what seniors need to know about Social Security changes, right? So all different kinds of things like that. You can see some of the content we have in here for what emails are coming out, important changes to FAFSA, financial tips for college-bound children. And then if you click on it, it will actually show you what that email looks like. So again, if you want help beyond your website, just trying to give you a flavor for what our full suite of marketing services looks like. If you don't feel you're as talented as Ruben in writing, great blog posts and emails.
But I think it's about, this is about buying your time back, right? Like we all have these businesses, whether we own them ourselves or our partners, or we're part of a big organization and more of an employee, like we have a day that has so many hours in it. And so if your value proposition isn't, you like crafting and digging into these words and writing, spending a lot of hours doing that, you buy your time back by outsourcing a lot of this. I mean, the nice thing about our industry is there's so many good ways to run a business. And that's how I see it, is if you use these sorts of tools, you can spend your time doing something else.
Right. 100%. And people have asked about, directing more traffic to your website. Obviously, social media is a long game. And Ruben, we can talk a little bit about how you've done on LinkedIn versus Twitter and some of these other platforms. But I just wanted to show, when it comes to social media posts, this is the kind of benefit. This is, again, a social post from our Do It For Me marketing program. I mean, look how long this is, everyone. We've moved to what we call a 0-click content world, where people don't want just you to post on social media. Check out my latest blog post on college tips or financial tips for your college-bound children. They want you to give them the meat of what you're going to talk about right there in the post. And that allows them to, comment on it and have something to respond to. And so we're doing all of this for you. We're laying it all out. We're adding all the emojis, all the hashtags, all the best practices. So this is a great way. If you have a website and you're wanting to drive more traffic, you can spend time building those connections, inviting people to follow you and connect with you, and then let us help you with what you're actually going to post. But I think that is a great question, for you, Ruben. You obviously are active. I'm going to pull up your profile here if anybody wants to connect with Ruben on LinkedIn. What does that look like for you in terms of what you post and how much time you spend?
It's not that different from my blog, which is, it's like a running stream of conscience of what I'm thinking about, but it's obviously very shorter. They're little punchy sentences or little things. Sometimes I might post pictures of what I'm doing or where I'm at. I get my most engagement here because I've had a professional network for a long time, but not all my clients are friends with me here. And a lot of my network is like financial advisors, because I was a wholesaler for a long time. So funny enough for me, people will say to me, oh, your LinkedIn's good. Like you get a lot of likes on stuff and things like that. But most of these people aren't who I'm targeting. A lot of these people are other advisors. And so that's something I've had to deal with. You can see that where you stopped here, like right above there, like there's numbers. Like I do a lot of quantity stuff because I think quantitative stuff, because what I'm trying to do is get people, again, my persona that I'm trying to paint is approachable, unintimidating, casual, not Wall Street, but then like, oh, has the chops to do the investment side. And that's sort of what you would see if you read through my stuff. Is it's not supposed to beat anyone over the head with hard finance, but it's supposed to give people like big takeaways, like, oh, I didn't know it worked that way.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, one of the things you mentioned to me though is, so yes, you might be connected with a lot of people in our industry, but then those are some of the people that are inviting you to be on their podcasts, which end up attracting new business.
That's true.
You know, you don't discount that for sure. Somebody's asking, you know, how do you build followers when you're young and you don't have a large professional network yet? One of the things that I tell people all the time is, if you've never commented on a post of a stranger on social media, then you're doing it wrong, right? So go to your feed, kind of look through, and there might be somebody in here that is a second degree connection, but somebody else commented on it. I'm trying to see if I can find one. And LinkedIn will do this kind of suggested for you. There's nothing wrong with leaving a comment on something that's in your feed. You don't know the person. In fact, that's a great way to build those connections. Another thing is, every single week, anybody that you meet with, go through your calendar, go through your email, drop every single one of those emails into the LinkedIn search and send them a connection request. I mean, I think about 32,000 connections or followers right now. I did that for years proactively. Every single Friday, I'd go through every single person I emailed with and anyone I met with. That included the admins setting up the meetings for the meeting with the person. And I sent them a LinkedIn connection request. And I didn't even add a note. I would just send it. That worked really, really well to build a network. But again, the big part is spending time, you know, engaging with other people's posts. For every one thing you post, you really should be leaving comments on at least 5 other people's posts. So keep
Sam,
that.
that's actually something I do really poorly at. So like, I always hear you say that and I'm like, oh, I should do that. And I never do. What I was going to say, there's a question earlier about blog versus podcast. And then there's some questions here about creating content on LinkedIn. I would like tie it all together and say, the best thing you can do is whatever content you're going to create is create something that's going to have a very captive audience. If you're still like, I would never do a LinkedIn post about funding a 529. I would never do it. Like, there's a zillion people out there doing that. And now with AI, I just like, that stuff is just not that interesting to me. And so very basic financial planning topics, or like diversification is good. Like these basic things that everyone's done a million times, I just don't think really resonate anymore. So the personal stories, especially, that might be attracted to a very unique audience. Like maybe you got, like I did this recently. I got a client who works, is an NFL employee. Mm-hmm. And so I did a post about the NFL 401k plan and some of the trade-offs of how you look at a 401k plan and how do you know what's good and what's bad? What information is in the costs? What information is in the performance? And so it's very, very unique to this, specific to anybody working in the NFL. But I positioned it as, you know, if you're interested in investing, here's how you want to think through a framework of analyzing a 401k plan.
I love that.
That's very different. Thank you. It's very different than diversification is good. Like, it's just, that's not unique. Yes. People have heard that before. So my hope in doing that was like, oh, maybe some other people that are NFL employees will see this, you know, but there's nothing wrong with sticking some stuff against the wall. I just think we're very much leaving the world of where your blog or your posts should be very basic financial planning or investment concepts. There's too much of it, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And it's really why, again, if you go back and you look at what we have in our content library, it is definitely done with best practices that we know works today. So 0-click content, it's got a lot of good visuals, weaves through a story, is based on current events, timely content, all the things that we know work best. So we are coming up on time. I want to get through the rest of the questions. I'm just going to put in here this QR code. So a lot of you are asking about, you know, what does this program cost? Or if we want help with, you know, editing out our website, can you send us some tutorials? If you use this QR code. You can book a time with our team and they can help you with any of the questions that you have. And we would, love to connect with all of you. But let me just go through a few more. If you're just starting out and want to build up content like this, where do you come up with ideas for stories? So Ruben, where do you get your ideas for what you end up talking about?
I think that if you read all my blogs, there's probably 40 posts or something last year and a half. Almost all of investing and planning is just a mosaic of trade-offs, right? Like if I do this, then I can't do that. And I see trade-offs everywhere in life, right? Like my baby is crying and needs a diaper change, but my wife is asking hey, can you help me? Can you go clean the kitchen? I can only do one at one time. So I see these things all over, and I tend to just see trade-offs in life, and then I write about them on the blog. I also, as we're looking at here, I do some I like novels a lot, so I read a lot. And when I see something cool about an author, I tend to write about stuff like that sometimes. I have, as we went over a little bit, like I have a very specific investment philosophy, which is I think prices work pretty well. I don't think people should spend their time trying to pick stocks. And so I write about the trade-offs of spending your time doing that as well, as opposed to focus on other things that I think are more value add. So I have a very general framework of like, I see the world this way, and I see parallels to the way I invest and plan in the real world all the time. So I would find things that are very unique to you, the books you like to read, the places you like to travel, the things you like to do, and tie it back to something that's related to outcomes for clients. Yeah. And that I found to work pretty well for me.
And I love that. And I could read your blog all day. I think so many of the stories you share are so great. And I just want to remind you though, again, what we have in the content library is meant to serve you. So if there's something in here and you want to use it as a starting point, for, maybe like this right here is all about FAFSA getting an overhaul, and you want to, show a chart. I know a lot of people use Y charts, for instance, of what the historic cost of college was over the last, 100 years and how many people used to go to college. You can weave a story like that. Or for us, we're here in State College, Pennsylvania. I might start with a picture of what campus looked like here 100 years ago and the story of Penn State and how it came to be, and then weave it into FAFSA, right? So again, I think just taking what's available to you and then making it specific to your audience is a really great strategy. But again, the whole point of our Do It For Me marketing program is that for many of you, you're not marketers. You don't want to do any of this. And that is why we created the program. You get to work with one of the marketing specialists. Susan and I create all of the content every month that actually goes out and you get to use as your social posts, your emails, your blog posts on your website. So definitely check that out if you are interested. And just last thing, because we had some specific questions about your website. Again, Ruben filled out a form. He told our team what he was looking for. He said he had a tight turnaround. And for, I think we said about $500, we'll call it that, in 72 hours, he had this website. So yes, he did had to have the logo. He did write the copy, although we can certainly help you with the copy. But if you are looking to refresh your website, it is a great way to go with our new essential themes to get something really quick that is beautiful. And, I just love this website. So congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Any last question or tips or anything you want to share with anybody about getting a website up and running, what they should know, Ruben?
Sure. I think we used that Voltaire quote earlier about like not letting perfect be the enemy of the good, but like this is not my value proposition. Like my website isn't where I want to focus my time. So it's hard to get your mind away from that, because this is kind of the fun part. Like when I sat down one day and it's like, what am I going to call my firm? That was really fun. When I was like, what's my website going to look like? What pictures are going to go up here? Like, that's really fun. But it is about clients. So for me, I was like, I got to get this done quickly. And that's why I outsourced as much as I could to your team, because it's way more important to me right now that I'm taking care of clients and growing my business.
I love that. We're so glad we got to work with you. So if you go to that QR code, this is the page it's going to take you to. And Blair just dropped that in the chat. Again, We are going to send all of you all of the best tips from today, the website checklist of everything you should know whether you want to update a current website or you want to work with us on a new one. And if you have any questions specific for us at FMG, you can also email srussell@fmgsuite.com. Ruben, again, congratulations on the new website and your sweet daughter, and that was born in the last year. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about this today. This was incredibly helpful to me, I know, and I'm sure to so many other people.
Thank you. Yeah, if I didn't answer any questions or people have other questions, I'm very accessible. You can send me an email. It's ruben@peltomacapital.com or ask me on LinkedIn. That's great. And I appreciate everybody coming.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Sam.